If everyone was mentally incapable of lying, how would that change the world? Depends on when it happened. If that's just how humans worked, we'd probably be a more harmonious species. If just started now, there would be a lot of violence. Language would evolve. Outright lying would be replaced by omission, selective reporting, etc. Cheaters wouldn't be cheating no more. I think, politicians speak, where you don't say truth or lies but carefully and wisely treading around a topic would not only become a lot more common, but an incredibly sought-after ability that would be not only a gifted skill, but a necessary one. There wouldn't be any politicians. Let that sink in. Politicians would be screwed. People would think I'm a pervert. Actually, they'd know I was pervert. Extroverts wouldn't be mistaken as the nicest people anymore. The most qualified candidates would be hired and paid their worth. There would be less corruption in general. Relationships would be based more on common core beliefs and not location. Something tells me Op has been watching Journey of Elena. In the Aragon books, it is impossible to lie in the ancient language, the language of magic. The elves, who primarily speak this language, are experts at only speaking the truth. However, quite often they are not telling you the whole truth. So, similar to this, if everyone were incapable of lying, I think we would quickly develop a system of lying by omission, selective speech. There would be no such thing as the truth then. Lies only exist because truths exist. Just as there is no such thing as darkness because darkness is the absence of light. Police will just walk around town saying, "Have you committed any crimes this year?" No among us. Man, disrespecting women because they look fat in that dress. Everyone would tell their true emotions. When you ask someone how are they, was their day, you'll hear a whole story. Everyone knows your crush. Lol. I don't know. The world would be a better place if it was always like that. If we just lose our ability to lie right now, it would be mass chaos, but it would be got better in the end. Society would collapse or wouldn't exist. The only way to make a person mentally incapable of lying is for them to be too stupid to see any advantage. Shit would get a lot worse. Lying is a delicate art. Yes, people might focus on lying politicians, but what about the people in outfits that do make their bottom look big? People's confidence will hit rock bottom, pun intended, and that will make the world shit. Ricky Gervais did this one. Being a trial lawyer would be a lot easier. The world would become a much quieter place. Retail would get a lot more bearable for the staff. Basically, the world would be full of lawyers. To become a lawyer, you go through years of training to learn how to deceive while still technically telling the truth. In a world where nobody can lie, everyone would become very skilled at telling the truth deceptively. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy would all be dead. Among Us wouldn't be Among Us anymore. Everyone would be hurt from being told they are not as good as they thought they were. I think there would be more crimes. Most people can't handle the truth. Politics would be a lot less annoying. People would learn to not talk. Stay silent when they would tell a lie. They wouldn't lie. They would just keep the truth to themselves. And #X200B. You wouldn't want to live in a world where people are not able to lie and are forced to always say the truth. We lie all the time, and it is usually not a bad thing. Some things shouldn't be heard by some people. Sir Mix-a-Lot would not have to specify it anymore. There would be a lot less corruption and no misinformation, but there would also be many more hurt feelings and relationships breaking apart. I personally doubt that we'd be a more harmonious species, even if we were always incapable of lying. It's not like apes or other creatures without complex language or lying to each other, and they still find shit to be territorial and kill one another over all the time. Without being capable of lying, in my opinion, the ramifications to that question would likely entail us being more primitive, rather than being utopian or more noble. For example, without the ability to lie, I doubt the arts would be nearly as developed. Can you imagine Shakespeare? But nobody can lie. All of the great poets and authors, but none of them had the EQ to understand the purpose of lies. What I'm getting at is, not being able to lie, would likely have ramifications in terms of other cognitive and social skills related to EQ. I'm not a specialist or anything, so I can't really elaborate much more than, I have a hunch. I have a hunch that we would be less complex socially, because a lot of the myth we create to explain ourselves in the universe are based around lies or at least on the same powers of cognitive extrapolation that make lies possible. We'd have completely different politicians. Politics would be a much tougher thing to be successful in. The Invention of Lying is a great film exploring this idea. But, the truth isn't always as honest as we would like it to be. People lie using the truth all the time. American politics would be better instantly. Pinocchio would be a pretty confusing story. America would be different. Court trials would be much quicker and easier. Relationships would fail way too much. Politics would get even more interesting than it already is. Oh boy, do I have a movie for you. Among Us would be impossible. Job interviews would become much more interesting. I'd be fine, I'm an open book. Not so sure about everyone else. Some people build the foundations to their life on lies. If anything, it would be a revealing time. Does this dress make me look fat? Oh man, what can I say? I really like the color. People are sensitive now and can't respect when people have an opinion, when that opinion isn't expressed in a rude way, so pretty much everyone would be cancelled by Twitter because of something. Politics would completely combust. Politics would be filled with silent pauses. Our entire economy would be completely different. Consumerism is fueled by an advertisement that is underpaid by dishonesty. When someone tried to claim their product was better, and suddenly had to describe why, unless it really was, they'd be unable to explain. Whole professions that are essentially brokers, middlemen, or experts in navigating a field would end. There'd be no need for car salesmen or real estate agents when a consumer could ask a question and be guaranteed a direct, honest answer. Professions based on flattery or benign manipulation would disappear. No more strippers, fewer psychiatrists, fashion consultants, etc. Law enforcement would be totally different. Essentially, if you were linked to a crime that you committed, there would be a 100% conviction rate. Probably less crime for profit. No change to crimes of passion. Fun thought exercise. Could type all night, but I thought these were interesting. Too many ways to describe. Politics would be so much better. People would just not say things that would upset people. Politicians could finally be honest. Everyone would probably talk less if it happened in this moment. Many people would be in jail, many would be let out of jail, and many lawsuits would be corrected. Suddenly a lot of people turn out to be older than they actually are. Politics would implode. People would just get better at evading answers. Being incapable of lying doesn't necessarily mean you're compelled to tell the absolute truth. Everyone would just get better at living in that gray area between the truth and a lie. Wives would stop asking their husbands if this dress or these pants make her look fat. Every man would truly know if his dick was big enough. Politicians would have to be realistic in making campaign promises. Perhaps the world would become much more depressed. Nowadays people are telling lies all the time. It might even be a subconscious lie. And when talking to someone, this happens quite frequently, but they're mostly positive lies. Once you take out the lies from our world, everyone would stop receiving those positive lies. And after growing so accustomed to them, everyone would just end up very sad. A lot more people would hate each other, that's for sure. This is a movie called The Invention of Lying. There would be questions no one would ask. Does this make me look fat? A particularly poor Ricky Gervais film, I'd imagine. There is a big difference between lying and uttering a false statement. You can utter a false statement while fully under the assumption that it's true. For example, if I honestly believed it was Tuesday and I said, "It's Tuesday," then I'm not lying. If I said, "It's Monday," then I would be lying, even though it's true that it's Monday. But I am trying to deceive and say an incorrect statement. Eliminating lying would certainly change a lot in our world, but maybe not as much as expected. You would still need courts. A defendant who claims he's innocent may be misremembering what actually happened. A defendant who admits he's guilty might have been tricked into admitting it. For example, when asked, "Do you deny that you're not guilty?" he might be confused by the double negative when asked and say, "Yes." Ever read Aragon? We'd be the elves. Really good at being as uninformative as possible without lying. Plus at times a partial truth can be more deceptive than an outright lie. This emoji lying face wouldn't exist. People would be offended a lot more since we would have to tell the truth about stuff. I think people would probably choose to speak much more carefully. Husband side would increase exponentially. The last 4 years would have been completely different. I think we'd talk a lot less, be a less verbal species, and words would be careful and chosen. So much more murder. I recommend you all watch The Invention of Lying. It's a comedy set in a world where no one can grasp the concept of a lie. It stars Ricky Gervais and Jonah Hill and it's hilarious. There's a movie about that. Well, sort of the opposite, but you'll get some answers. It's a pretty funny movie too. The Invention of Lying. https://www.imdb.com/title/tt105817/ closing square bracket opening parenthesis https://www.imdb.com/title/tt105817/ closing parenthesis. Instead of liars, people asking the difficult questions would be the bad ones. We would probably have more wars and conflict with one another. World leader might say trash to another and take offense. Truth as subjective. You're doing wrong may be only true from the speaker's point of view, while the person doing the task may actually be doing it correctly. So who's lying? I feel there's a movie about this. Very little. I can truthfully say, we have a tested vaccine for COVID-19, and truthfully say, we're nowhere near vaccinating anyone for COVID-19. We think of lies as what causes strife, but the truth out of context is often so much worse. Civil servants would actually be held responsible for their actions and expected to do their jobs. Lying would be a mental illness. Thanks for watching. See you later.